Dear brothers and sisters, let us continue the book reading Voice Real, written by Babuji Maharaj, chapter The Practical Pursuit. The next important thing to be kept in mind is the moral discipline, which everyone must be very particular about. He must never do a thing which might bring a bad name to himself or to the sanstha he belongs to. His way of living and dealing with others should be simple, unassuming, and cordial, inspired by a feeling of love and sympathy for others. This will be a source of satisfaction and peace to him as well. One should lead a simple and pious life, absorbed in constant divine consciousness, discharging properly at the same time all his worldly responsibilities and duties. There is not the least justification for anyone to flee away from home in utter disregard of his worldly duties and wander about without any definite aim or purpose. As a matter of fact, even in that state of so-called vairagya, one is seldom free from feelings of worldliness. If a grihastha who has ignored God can be presumed to be deceiving God, the so-called vairagi will prove a worse sinner. Saint Kabir has aptly remarked, God remains 20 paces away from a brahmachari and 30 paces away from a sannyasi, whereas he resides within a grihastha who entertains him in his heart. We should really try to be with God and in God all the time, and never be away from Him even for a moment. When we come up to this state, we are all the time in a state of vairagya. Thus, attachment with God results in detachment from the world, and that is true vairagya. Some persons seem to be under the impression that the practices prescribed under this system are by themselves sufficient for the attainment of the final goal, but that is not exactly so. While referring to sadhana under Sahaj Marg, I must draw attention to the real spirit of it. The abhyasi must not fix his mind upon its outer features only. Unfortunately, people keep their eyes only on formal rules and methods and ignore the real spirit. Under the system, though the spiritual training is imparted through transmission, still the most important and indispensable thing remains for the abhyasi to develop in himself. It is love and devotion to supplement the abhyas. This feature was introduced into Raja Yoga by Lord Krishna in order to speed up the progress of abhyasis. The only way to develop love is constant remembrance. While doing your daily work, you must think that you are doing it in obedience to God's orders and hence as part of your duty. This simple process, if followed in the right spirit, will keep you in touch with the ultimate. Another advantage would be that you will stop further formation of sanskaras. The constant remembrance promotes attachment to God, which develops into bhakti. This is because the heat contained in the thought stimulates emotion, which assumes the form of bhakti. If you turn it into a habit, you will find how fast love develops in you. It is, in fact, an essential feature of spiritual life. Here, Babuji Maharaj is explaining us about the next important thing to be kept in mind of we abhyasis, that is the moral discipline, which everyone must be very particular about it. So, Babuji Maharaj is saying that the abhyasi must never do a thing which might bring a bad name to himself or to the sanstha he belongs to. So, dear brethren, this is the very important thing what we have to keep it in our mind, so that our deeds should never bring bad name to ourselves as well as for our sanstha. And then further, our way of living and dealing with others should be such that it should be simple, unassuming, and cordial, inspired by a feeling of love and sympathy for others. So, dear brethren, be simple, be cordial, and have the feeling of love and sympathy for our fellow beings. This quality is a source of satisfaction and peace to all of us, and also to the person whom we treat. Therefore, we should lead a simple and pious life, absorbed in constant divine consciousness, thereby discharging properly at the same time all our worldly responsibilities and duties. So, by doing all our duties and by taking care of all our responsibilities, we should be always in a state of absorption in that constant divine consciousness. So, here Babuji Maharaj is saying that no one should flee away from home in utter disregard to his worldly duties or his family, and should never wander about without any definite aim or purpose, because there is no justification for these kind of deeds. As a matter of fact, even in that state of so-called vairagya, one is seldom free from feelings of worldliness. If a grihastha who has ignored God can be presumed to be deceiving God, so we should always remember God and do all our worldly duties with the feeling of duty boundedness. Otherwise, the so-called vairagi will prove a worse sinner. Babuji Maharaj is quoting Saint Kabir's Dohe, and its meaning is summarized as below. God remains 20 paces away from a brahmachari and 30 paces away from a sannyasi, whereas he resides with a grihastha who entertains him in his heart. Why God remains 20 paces away from a brahmachari and 30 paces away from a sannyasi? Because brahmachari and sannyasi escaped from the duties entrusted by God. What are all those duties that are entrusted by God? Is our family, that is serving our family, serving our friends, and serving this entire humanity. This is the duty entrusted by God. But whereas a grihastha, he dedicatedly do his duty and he remembers God in each and every act of his duty. That's the reason why God resides within a grihastha who entertains him in his heart, because grihastha always remembers God and seeks the help of God for each and every aspect of his life. Further, we should really try to be with God and in God all the time, and never be away from him even for a moment. This is very important. for we people, because we are all grihasthas and doing our spiritual sadhana. So for us, this is the golden tip, what Babuji Maharaj has given. And when we come up to this state, we are all the time in a state of vairagya. That is, we are always attached to God, as a result of which the detachment from this world happens naturally. And that state of condition is true vairagya. And some people seem to be under the impression that the practices prescribed under our system of such mark are by themselves sufficient for the attainment of the final goal. But what Babuji Maharaj is saying here is that is not exactly so. Why? While referring to sadhana under Sahaj Marg, Babuji Maharaj is drawing our attention to the real spirit of it, because we should catch the real spirit of our sadhana. Otherwise, our practice becomes mechanical. The abhyasi must not fix his mind upon its just outer features only. If we follow only the outer features, then our practice becomes mechanical. And further, Babuji Maharaj is saying that unfortunately people keep their eyes only on formal rules and methods and ignore the real spirit. So this is a matter of great concern. Just people will say that, yes, I am doing meditation in the morning, I am doing cleaning, I am doing constant remembrance, I am doing the prayer, but still I feel that I have not progressed. Why? The reason behind that is they have not captured the real spirit of it. So let us know what is that real spirit of our sadhana. The real spirit of our sadhana is love and devotion. Because under our system, though the spiritual training is imparted through transmission, still the most important and indispensable thing remains for the abhyasi is to develop in himself the love and devotion. So, love and devotion to supplement the abhyas should be developed in an abhyasi by himself. This feature was introduced into Raj Yoga by Lord Krishna in order to speed up the progress of abhyasis. So, this is very, very important and a key for our success in our sadhana, that is developing love and devotion. The only way to develop love is constant remembrance. So many people will say this, we will not experience the love and we don't know how to love. So for them, Babuji Maharaj has given a simple clue. That is, to develop love, you do constant remembrance. What happens if we practice constant remembrance? While doing our daily work, if we think that we are doing it in obedience to God's orders or Master's order, and hence as a part of our duty, if we do all the activities, then slowly it transforms our inner system. This simple process, if followed in the right spirit, It will keep us in touch with the ultimate. Always remembering our goal, remembering God, and do the job. If I prepare coffee in the morning, just think that this is the coffee, what you are preparing for your master. And you are offering this coffee to your master as a prasadam. Similarly, if we do our office duties, just think that this is the duty entrusted by our master and we are serving our master. And if we take care of our family, friends, or be with anybody, just think that they are all the bones of God. So, I am serving God rather than I am serving my family or friends. So, if we develop this quality within us, what happens? We will keep ourselves always in touch with that Supreme Being, that is the ultimate reality. And another advantage would be that we will stop further formation of sanskaras. This is very important thing. When we are in touch with that ultimate state of condition, naturally the formation of our samskaras will stop. The constant remembrance promotes attachment to God, which develops into bhakti. When we start remembering God or any person, even worldly also, we start loving them. And when we start looking at their godly attributes, then a sort of devotion, that is bhakti, flourishes in our heart. This is because the heat contained in the thought stimulates emotion which assumes the form of bhakti. If we turn it into a habit, then we will find how fast love develops in us. So, it is in fact an essential feature of our spiritual life. So, dear brethren, Babuji Maharaj has clearly mentioned the important thing in our spiritual practice. That is, first is moral discipline, and then doing all our worldly duties as the duty of God, and doing the constant remembrance to develop love and devotion within us, which makes us or keeps us in touch with that Supreme Being. With this, let us conclude today's satsang and know more aspects in the forthcoming satsang. Till then, I take leave. Pranams. Namaste.